Coming up on show 775, the Volvo XC100 Recharge is an all-electric flagship car from the Swedish brand. If you stick around, I'll tell you more. Plus, on the show today, we're talking about Ferrari and testing another prototype hybrid electric car. Audi's A6 Estate, the Avant, is now a plug-in version. Tesla securing a loan to build even more factories at Giga Shanghai. LG Chem edging out Panasonic in the first quarter of the year, only just. And Chicago requiring new building works to have EV charging capabilities. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. In fact, wherever you're listening in the world, welcome to EV News Daily. This is the edition for Monday, the 11th of May. My name is Martin Lee, and I go through every EV story, so you don't have to. It's a real pleasure to be bang up to date again and releasing these shows daily, properly on time. Thank you for your patience over the last week or so. And thank you as always to myev.com for helping make the show. MyEV in the US is where you can find out more about EVs. You can connect with buyers and sellers. It's totally free and it really simplifies all about electric vehicles, which at the moment, if you are staying at home and maybe just easing back into work, I don't know what things are like where you are, or what it's like across the US. Obviously, I read the headlines, but maybe you're just thinking about buying or selling an EV, check out myev.com. Let's start with a car that, let's face it, you and I probably won't be buying, and that is a new hybrid car from Ferrari. A little bit of context, the previous head of Ferrari, Sergio Marchionne, well, he was always very anti-EV, sadly no longer with us, by the way, but when he was leading the company, he was always about the combustion side of Ferrari, and let's face it, he knew his audience, and he was preaching to the converted to a certain extent, but with tighter emissions regulations and with all cars going to new powertrains over the years, well, Ferrari can't be left behind. And so that's why we're not surprised to see in this new Ferrari world testing more hybrids and launching later this year 2 new cars. It's the range is getting bigger all the time. So when will we get an fully electric Ferrari? Well, that may be a few years away. But they have made clear Ferrari will now fully embrace electrification, and we know they're testing prototypes and hybrid powertrains. The most recent encounter we've seen is for a hybrid test vehicle just at the end of last month. On Instagram, somebody was peering through the fence at Maranello, the Ferrari test track, and according to Motor One, you can see a camouflaged hybrid Ferrari pounding around the track. Sounds like a V6 in the car at times. New family of V6 engines announced a couple of years ago. We know they're coming, and it makes sense to electrify the smallest powertrain in the lineup to obtain a greater combined output. Power worthy of the Ferrari badge. How do we know Ferrari is testing hybrid cars? Well, the big yellow warning stickers that they have to put on the cars, which indicate high voltage, they're not just there for show. So it's not as if we're kind of speculating, oh, it could be a hybrid. Yeah, we can see the big yellow stickers. When we get these Ferrari hybrids, I don't know, but of course, if they've got the high voltage stickers on, this is more than just a simple soft hybrid system, or a mild hybrid as we call it sometimes. Basically a 48 volt system that helps with some of the belts and pulleys and things that an engine does, some of that stop-start technology at lights and things like that. We're probably talking a proper high-voltage plug-in Ferrari. Very nice. Looking forward to seeing more of what they have in up their sleeve, as it were. Not that I'll be queuing up to buy one, of course. You understand. But we like those halo cars, and we like it when a brand like Ferrari embraces EVs. Here's a car that is more in the world of regular people buying, the Audi A6 Avant, or estate car, as I would call it, or station wagon, as you might call it, depending on where you listen to this podcast. Following the A6 saloon version, Audi's full-size estate car is now entering the market as a plug-in hybrid. The new Audi A6 Avant 55 TFSI E Quattro. That is a long name. And it also explains, by the way, I was asking recently on the podcast, why is the Audi e-tron called the Audi e-tron 50 and the Audi e-tron 55? When that doesn't match up with battery capacity, any kind of power output. And somebody said to me, look, if you look at the combustion range of Audi, that's how they number their cars. I was like, oh, the penny dropped. And of course, when you look at this, the Audi A6 Avant 55. There we go. The 55 TFSIe Quattro. Well, long name, but a very cool car. Has a 105 kilowatt electric motor integrated into a 7-speed S-tronic gearbox, and the battery, well, that is 14.1 kilowatt hours. Not the biggest of a plug-in hybrid, but it's what you do with it, really. There's permanently available all-wheel drive for an equally high level of traction. Good handling on this. The electric range of the A6 is 51 kilometres, about 32 miles on WLTP test cycle, 50% company car tax reduction in Germany because of that range. What's the performance like? Well, 0 to 62, 0 to 100 kilometres is 5.7 seconds. Very rapid for a big station wagon. Top speed? Well, it's an Audi. It's an estate car. It's designed for the Autobahn. Top speed, 250 k's, that is 155.3 miles an hour. In electric mode only, the plug-in hybrid will get you to 84 miles an hour, 135 kilometres an hour, purely on the battery. But of course, it's a small battery, and that's going to use up the power very, very quickly. It's got some different drive modes, which is interesting. It's got EV mode, so you can force it into electric. It's got hybrid mode for a combination of both types. It's got hold mode, and that will not touch the battery, but it will conserve electrical energy at that point in time. Hybrid mode is interesting. The predictive operating strategy of hybrid mode looks at where you've navigated to on your sat-nav system, and it ensures maximum efficiency and the maximum possible electric driving when speeds are most appropriate. So in other words, when you're doing 70, 80, whatever, miles an hour, or 155 on the Autobahn, it's not going to touch the electric power. It would be pointless to do that. Where it is much more useful is when you are in traffic. It makes for a nicer driving experience. It's a more efficient way because of the drag effect of air. It kills electric power very quickly. And so when you've only got 14.1 kilowatt hours, use it when it's the most sensible. And of course, those low speeds tend to be done in towns and cities, or the last couple of miles as you're heading towards your house and maybe going down those slower roads and the back streets. That's where you want, if you can, to reduce pollution as well. Might be driving past schools and things like that. Yes, please. Emission-free driving. It's what we all want. It controls the drivetrain intelligently, so the last bit of your journey is covered in all-electric mode, which is also important if you are heading into an increasing amount of cities around the world have low-emission zones or even zero-emission zones. The app has been updated too. Customers now use the My Audi app, and that has all of the charging stuff in the app. It's got climate control, preconditioning in the app, which is nice for a plug-in hybrid. So on a cold day, defrost the car, get it on a hot day, get it nice and cool, as EV drivers are used to doing. The air conditioning system in the new plug-in hybrid Audi A6 works with a heat pump system. So it uses waste heat from the electrical drive components. The My Audi app has a route planner as well. You can see where all the charging spots are. If you want one, they're not cheap. They're about €72,000 before any incentives convert the price for your local where you're listening. But still, a very, very nice car and a very useful car as well. Man, I love estate cars. Absolutely adore them. I'm kind of thinking that the next car I buy is going to be an estate car. The only problem is not too many EVs fit the bill yet. There's an MG estate coming at the end of this year. Not that I'm mad keen on buying, an MG as the kind of forever car and saving up for that, because I'm just not sure about it at the moment. But lots and lots of fans of the MG ZS EV email me and go, no, honestly, it's great, it's fine. So looking forward to learning more. Let's talk about the Volvo. Headline story, the Volvo XC100 Recharge. This is a very stylish Swedish flagship electric car. Volvo's Renaissance launched recently with the reborn XC90 SUV. That's the basis of their new flagship, and the SUV coupe. In other words, take that big SUV style and chop the back off a bit at about 45 degrees. That's a very crude way of describing the coupe style that tends to be at the top of many of the car manufacturers' ranges. Think Audi e-tron versus Audi e-tron Sportback. a bit more expensive, a bit more swoopy at the rear. It's going to be called the Volvo XC100. According to Motor Trend, as a branding statement more than a pure hauler, because it is a little bit more impractical, the XC100 Recharge will take over as the flagship car for Volvo, and you spotted it, it's going to be called the XC100 Recharge, and we know that's the name that Volvo give to their all-electric cars from now on. So, expect 4 seats, not 5, a comfort ride, semi-autonomous capabilities, nice design, but also expect pure electric power and no engine at all. Built, by the way, on the new SPA2 architecture. Now, SPA2 from Volvo is designed for all of their future EVs, while the XC90 will have the option of a plug-in hybrid, by the way. The XC100, fully electric. All-wheel drive, 2 motors, coming 2023. Not that cheap, to be honest with you. They reckon about $85,000 for this one, but a really nice, top-of-the-range, all-electric Volvo. Tesla has secured a further credit line of up to $565 million from the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China for the expansion of Gigafactory Shanghai, says the industry website Electrive. Tesla announced the credit line in a statement to the US Securities and Exchange Commission. Well, last year, Tesla concluded loan agreements with Chinese banks for up to about €500 million for the first phase of their Chinese plant. Well, Tesla is only allowed to use these funds for expanding automobile production at Gigafactory Shanghai. In addition to what's already been built for the Model 3 and the battery buildings as well, Tesla is also in the middle of construction of the Model Y buildings at Giga Shanghai. And by the end of the year, that's what some people are saying, we'll see Model Ys churning off of the production line. Let's talk the Chevy Bolt. The EUV coming in 2022, maybe at the end of next year as well, possibly if they can. Motor Trend has an update on the Bolt EUV. EUV, by the way, electric utility vehicle. Yeah, based on the Bolt's architecture rather than the new architecture coming from GM, the existing car is being stretched a little bit longer, 3 inches between the wheels, and a bit higher as well, for more interior space. The Bolt is already a pretty tall car, so maybe the Bolt EUV won't get that much taller, but it will get a little bit bigger, bit longer, more upright styling as well, looking more like an SUV, but they want us to call it an EUV. The longer wheelbase makes room for a larger battery than the Bolt's current pack. A reminder, the Bolt has a 66 kilowatt hour pack, and that will obviously give us a bit more range than the current range of the Bolt, 259 miles officially. It's going to be front-wheel drive. No plans at the moment from GM to add a rear axle motor to make it all-wheel drive. Well, Chevy's addressing a number of complaints about the current Bolt, giving the new Bolt and the new Bolt EUV, both two new cars, by the way, updated Bolt and the new EUV, better seats, new infotainment systems coming. There's going to be a push-button gear selector as well. So we're looking forward to seeing what the new Bolt comes with. No Ultium batteries, by the way. GM do have new battery technology that they have been developing with their partners. They've called it Ultium, and these aren't going in to the new Bolt or the Bolt EUV. But yes, it is getting their autonomous driving. I don't know how autonomous that makes it sound. Super Cruise. Let's call it the Highway Driver Assist. It's very good, by the way, Super Cruise. Has lots of big fans. The Bolt, at the moment, starts at $37,000 before local, state and federal incentives. We wouldn't think the Bolt EUV, when it comes out at the end of next year or early 2022, will have a vast difference in price. You would think it's got to compete with the Tesla Model Y and some more cars like the ID3, maybe it's called the ID4, maybe the Audi Q4 e-tron, all cars in that late $30,000 to $40,000 range as well. Let's talk batteries. LG Chem is edging out Panasonic in the first quarter of the year. In the first quarter of 2020, passenger vehicle cell suppliers deployed 20.5 gigawatt hours of battery capacity globally. That is down from 20.9 gigawatt hours in the first quarter of 2019 and quite a lot down on 26.5 gigawatt hours at the end of last year in quarter 4, according to Adamas Intelligence's EV battery capacity and battery metals tracker, which came out today. Well, after losing the top spot to LG Chem in January and February, Panasonic bounced back with a vengeance in March, deploying 3.8 gigawatt hours globally compared to LG Chem's 2.2. The data shows that LG Chem has just tipped it, though. 6.07 gigawatt hours of passenger vehicle cells in Q1 versus 6.05 for Panasonic. We'll call it a draw, pretty much. But collectively, between those two companies alone, they are responsible for 60% of all new passenger EV battery deployed globally around the world. Let's go to Chicago next, and the Chicago City Council last week approved an ordinance requiring any new construction of residential and commercial buildings of certain sizes to ensure that at least a fifth, at least 20% of any supplied parking spaces have EV charging equipment ready to be installed, says the industry newsletter Utility Dive. They say the new rules apply to residential buildings with 5 or more units and commercial buildings with 30 or more parking spaces. Consumer advocates say the ordinance makes Chicago a leader, a national leader, in their efforts to ensure the adoption of EVs and calling for similar policies to be adopted more widely. A giant leap forward, and it's the kind of wise EV policy we need across Illinois, says the Citizens Utility Board Executive Director. And we'll finish off with a little bit of good news here in the UK. It's semi-good news, but we'll end on this. The Office for Low Emission Vehicles, OLEV, has announced that because of the Rona, as I've seen the kids on Twitter calling it, they don't call it COVID-19 or Corona, they call it the Rona. Okay, maybe that's what everyone's calling it these days. Because of the Rona, it has extended the time frame to get more money off of your home chargers. The £500 grant has been extended to April 2021, end of the tax year, reports ZapMap. Well, sort of extended. Let me clarify. The budget in mid-March announced that the grant for your chargers at home was going down from £500 to £350. However, they then put a ridiculous 2-week limit on get your applications in because it's going away. So, that is what's been extended. So, if you got your charger installed before the 12th of March and you got your application in, you now have until April next year to get the full £500 back. They've extended the deadline, I think, for the applications rather than you've got until next year to go and buy yourself a new home charger. So I fall outside of that. Our electrician was due to come in early March to fit our Zappy version 2. Sadly, because of what happened, he couldn't come around. Absolutely fine. So whereas I would have got £500 off the installation, I only get £350 off the installation. I know it's £150. That's a lot of money, though. It's frustrating. We're just having to suck it up and pay it because there's nothing we can do about it. We were just caught. There's many people in a much worse situation because of the virus. I am not complaining. I'm just saying our personal situation. We have lost out a little bit in this. Electrician should be coming round in the next couple of weeks, we hope, because the new Zappy box is with him. He's bought it, just wasn't allowed to come round and do the wiring and update it for us and get it on the wall. Hey, question of the week is back this week. I'd love to hear from you. What's your favourite charging app and route planner? Either on iOS or Android. Tell me why. Is it one that comes with the car? Is it one from one of the automakers? Is it a third-party app? Just trying to learn a bit more, really, about what you use, and any EV curious listeners who aren't EV owners yet, who are learning about EVs through this podcast, we can help them out as well. What's your favourite charging app and route planner? And tell me why. You can email me hello@evnewsdaily.com or leave a comment on the YouTube show. Thank you so much to 230 patrons of the podcast who make this show. And if you want to learn about a brighter future, you can subscribe to this podcast and hear all about the EV news every single day. By no means do you have to check out Patreon, but if it's something that you are thinking about, wondering about, you hear about it all the time, what is it? Patreon, patreon.com/EVNewsDaily It's how individuals and companies can support the creation of projects rather than me having to run adverts on the show. And so I like this way of funding the podcast. It keeps it advert free. You're not having to sit through 5 minutes of ads first before you get the podcast, and it's the individuals and the companies that pay for what you enjoy. It's presumptive, hopefully enjoy every day. Thank you very much to Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Brightsmith Group for Clean Tech Talent, Porsche of the Village Cincinnati, and Audi of Cincinnati East App Premium Partners. There are 774 previous shows in the archive, and the blog is evnewsdaily.com if you want to check it out. If you subscribe to the podcast in your favourite app, it means you haven't got to think about downloading the show every day, and it means you'll get the show first and free and automatically. Any reviews that you can put on Apple Podcasts really help me grow the show, and I'd love to hear from you and have a chat on socials. If you search for EV News Daily, you'll find me on there. Have a wonderful day, and I will catch you tomorrow. Oh, do remember, by the way, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.